Hello. Hello. Hello, children. It's been like a fucking year since I made a video. I have had a child and received a master's degree in that time, so I've been a pretty busy guy. Not a lot of time for content creation. Still been playing Magic, been getting some 5-0s with this beautiful piece of shit. Um, the deck list, nothing too crazy going on. We're gonna walk through my most recent 5-0. That's why we're here today. Deck list, nothing crazy going on. Still got Force Bows of the Vault. Still got main deck empties, Doomsday, Burning Wish, etc. Biggest difference I think since the last content I created is the main deck Thoughtseize. So we got 4 main deck Thoughtseize. This has been the best protection option for the main deck. Unlike something like Orm's Chant, which requires you to have potentially red, black, and blue mana available on your combo turn, or red, black, and white mana available on your combo turn. The Thoughtseizes mean you only need red and black mana because you can cast them off of your Dark Rituals, your Cabal Rituals. They also can bin your own Echo of Eons, which makes them better than something like Duress, even though the life loss can occasionally be problematic on paper. Um, they can bin your echoes, so you have another way to get that shit in the graveyard aside from Lion's Eye Diamond. Uh, in the sideboard, we have the chants in the sideboard. 3 chants, 3 galvanic relays are the anti-blue package. The 4th relay I consider to be part of the wishboard. The rest of the wishboard stuff is all pretty normal. We got one prismatic ending for like removing random bullshit. We've got our engines. Jessica's Will is kind of debatable. Um, you can use it to draw through Doomsday piles. You can also use it, you can wish for it to make mana. So, like Burning Wish plus Jessica's Will, if your opponent has 7 cards, is plus 2 mana. You can also wish for it and then cast the next turn. I don't know. I'm not convinced that I want this in the 75 at all, but it definitely has come up in the past. Um, Sometimes I wish I had it main deck too, but whatever. All right, so we're gonna go through my most recent 5-0. I had just come off of like 3 back-to-back 2-3s, so you can see there's not a lot of wins in my results column. Uh, but I think I've had like 4. I think this was my 4th 5-0 with that list, or roughly that list, with a handful of cards changed, um, mostly in the board. And over my past like 20 leagues or so, I'm running right around 60 to 65% win rate. So doing pretty okay. Um, so let's take a look. So this is match number 1. I lose the die roll and open up a pretty good hand. So obviously this can turn 1 make at least make a lot of goblins, or you could echo. Since I'm on the draw, if I draw another mana source, I could possibly um, peer on turn 1. So this is a very good hand. And also, if I draw another mana source, I could consider, rather than peering, I could consider double business spells if I am up against a blue deck, and I think that's going to be a requirement. So, opponent keeps 7 as well, and they lead off on a Misty Rainforest. Into Glistener Elf. So they're on Infect. Can I do this? Is that going to work? All right, so for my turn, I draw Thoughtseize. So I'm happy to lead off on the Thoughtseize. I think that's a pretty reasonable play here. I do want to play around Daze, so I'm going to play out the Chrome Mox, and I'm going to imprint Manamorphose, holding on to the spoils so that I have a second business spell still. And I will Thoughtseize, and we'll see they have Force, a couple blue cards, including a Brainstorm, and a Pump spell. So I'm definitely under pressure to win here. Obviously, I have to take the Force of Will. So they could potentially Brainstorm into another counter spell. But because Infect's a very fast deck, I can't really afford to like waste time trying to beat them. Because like theoretically they could brainstorm into land plus scale up plus invigorate and just kill me right now. However, I'll just go through here a little quicker. That's not what happened. They found another land, not a fetch land. They played a Glistener Elf, or they attacked with Glistener Elf, and they didn't scale up. So on my turn, I decide that I'm just going to go for it. So I'm just going to click play here. I draw another Chromox, so I imprint the Spoils of the Vault, play on my LEDs. Burning Wish, I decided to go for Pier, even though I'm kind of playing into Daze here. Um, so yeah, I decided to cast Pier into potential Daze. The other option would be to go for Empty the Warrens, but that's going to be 10 Goblins. I don't know that that's going to win. So I think it's better to just go for Pier and hope that they didn't find more counter magic. Pier resolves, and they just concede to the Pier. Game 2. So this hand is actually, I'm going to pause here. So for their turn, they just draw Tropical and play Glistener Elf. Pretty decent start. For my turn, my hand doesn't have any business spells, but it does have multiple pieces of protection and has plenty of mana and a permanent mana source. And my life total doesn't matter a whole lot in this matchup because um, infect damage isn't regular damage. So obviously, if I draw spoils, my life total could be in question if I've cast multiple Thought Seasons off City Brass, but we're not too worried about that. Basically, I'm just hoping to draw a business spell off the top of my deck before they kill me, and using my disruption to either stop the kill or protect my kill when I draw it. I think this hand is keepable against Daze decks, like blue Delver-ish decks. Um, our deck's pretty business dense. I can see mulliganing this. I think if you wouldn't keep a hand like this without protection, and I think having multiple pieces of protection makes it more reasonable. But I can totally see not keeping this as well. So for turn, we draw the Spoils of the Vault. So looking at this hand, what I'm interested in doing now is I could try to make a move right now. I can go City Brass, cast Rite of Flame, Petal, cast Cabal Ritual. I can Thoughtseize, and then I'll have enough mana if the Thoughtseize resolves and they're clear. I would have enough mana to like go for. Oh, actually, I should talk about my sideboarding. I totally forgot to talk about my sideboarding. I cut the Empty the Warrens. This is important here. I cut the Empty the Warrens. Infect can fairly easily beat Empty the Warrens, especially if it's not a big one. If it's like 8 or 10, that's not going to be enough against Infect. You got to be into like 14 to 16 to like really reliably be able to beat them, and sometimes they can even just race. Um, so especially when you're on the draw, like if you make 12 goblins on turn one, if they have a turn two Glistener Elf into turn three kill, like your goblins aren't going to be fast enough. Um, so I left the Doomsdays. I left the Doomsdays in. I brought in Galvanic Relay. Um, and I brought in the Chance as well. So I cut the empties and I trimmed the Cabal Ritual, Spoils the Vault, and a Metamorphose. I'm going to pause here for a sec. Oh, I guess I can only unpause. Uh, Back to the game. All right. So now that we've had our sideboarding talk, so I draw the Spoils of the Vault. So here, instead of empty, I'm going to be aiming for like um, Galvanic Relay, but that would be a relay for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, relay 7. So that's a pretty reasonable relay. And I'd have mana source up and like 8 new cards to look at next turn. So I think that's a reasonable play to make. So let's see what happens. Exactly as described. I play out the Lotus Petal, play out the Rite of Flame, play out the Cabal Ritual, play the Thoughtseize, and here they daze. Because my game plan is to go for the um, Galvanic Relay. I obviously I can pay for the daze. Um, One thing to consider here is you can pay for the days with the red mana, Thoughtseize again, and then still spoils. So you could get 2 Thoughtseizes here, um, or you can let the days resolve and then just Thoughtseize again and then cast spoils. Or I think that I did pay for the days, and then when I looked at their hand, it didn't have a lot going on. It had 1 Flusterstorm in it, which is now in their graveyard. So I elected to not pay more life. Um, Wait, is that what happened? Yeah, no, sorry. I guess I did cast the second Thoughtseize. I think there's an argument for not casting the second Thoughtseize because there's nothing left in their hand, and the storm will be 8, or yeah, the storm will be 8 for the relay, and then you'll have a 9th new card in for the next turn. Like that still is a good amount of cards, and then you have 2 extra life. Um, anyway, I died. uh, it's hard to tell here, but you can see from all these cards that I revealed, I died to the Spoils of the Vault. Um, yeah, the replay mode doesn't like that. But anyway, I died to the Spoils of the Vault before I found the relay. So on to game 3. Uh-oh. Is the MTGO crashing? It sure looks like it. I'm going to restart my VM. The joys of... Yikes. The joys of Linux. Okay, back in action. This is just good quality entertainment. This is what the people want. They want to see my computer shitting the bed. They want to see Magic Online crashing. The bane of all Moto players. Alright, so now this is game 3 of the Infect match. So I'm on the play. So I keep this hand. I could see this one being a mull as well. The reason I kept this is I'm thinking you turn 1 Dark Red Doomsday. If that fails, you still have a fair amount of gas. So if you draw another business spell, you're in pretty good shape. So if the Doomsday doesn't pass, you get to draw a business spell, and hopefully try again shortly. If the Doomsday does go through, you are equipped to do a pretty resilient Doomsday pile. So we'll proceed so we can see that, because spoiler alert, the Doomsday does in fact resolve. My opponent mulligans very low as well, which makes me feel more comfortable about firing off this Doomsday. So they mulled a 4. Now, obviously, they're probably looking for counter magic, so maybe they have it, but the Doomsday resolves at any rate. Maybe they're thinking that they'll be able to fight over the pile. So we'll click through here. So this is an interesting spot. So we'll take a look at this pile. Because I have the Manamorphose and the Lion's Eye Diamond in hand, I'm able to make essentially a double cantrip pile that will let me play an Orm's Chant before I cast a Thassa's Oracle. So how this works is we'll pile Thassa's Oracle on the bottom. I already clicked that. And then the Morphose, Chant, Street Wraith. And I'm going to play out my Lotus Petal, and I'll play out the LED, and we'll pass. And we'll let the opponent go through their turn, which is just a Glistener Elf. And then now I can play Manamorphose, hold priority, play Street Wraith, hold priority, and crack the LED. Or actually, sorry, it's not even that complicated. It's better because you don't have to crack the LED before your Manamorphose resolves. You just get to cast Manamorphose. I made like blue and white. It resolved. I used the white to cast Orm's Chant, and then I can do the Street Wraith, cracking the LED to draw the Manamorphoses. So nice resilient pile there. Easy win. On to game or match 2. Lost the die roll again. I'll just click play here. So had to mull, but the hand redraw is pretty good, pretty busto. If this is a blue deck, again, if my opponent's on a blue deck, I'm 1 mana short right now of being able to have 2 business spells between the Burning Wish and the Echo. So I'm in pretty decent shape, all things considered. And if it's a non-blue deck, then I can just happily fire off the Echo. This looks like it's probably some sort of painter deck. I don't think they often play Chromatic Star, but there's not a whole lot else that would play a basic mountain and then a Chromatic Star. So this is some sort of artifact synergy deck. My draw for the turn was a Cabal Ritual. So I'm going to lead off with Rite of Flame. We're just going for it, basically. Rite of Flame into Manamorphose. I'll make red-black. We'll see what we draw before I make another play. There's an argument for like going Cabal Ritual, Thoughtseize before the Echo, or just casting Cabal Ritual so you have more mana before you Echo. However, I strongly value having red and black much more than I value having 1 extra mana, but all of it being black. So if I'm going to be drawing a new Echo hand, I want both colors of mana if possible, and I'll take that over having the 3rd mana. This comes up fairly often. The advantage of having the 3rd black mana is that means you can cast a Doomsday, and this is a matchup where Doomsday probably is pretty good. It's unlikely that, like, the only way they'll really be able to interact with Doomsday, well, actually, I take that back. This is probably not a matchup where Doomsday is all that good. They have Grindstone that could mess up your pile, although it's unlikely that they'll be able to cast Grindstone and activate it next turn. They need, like, Grindstone plus Lion's Eye Diamond, probably. They, however, likely do have Red Blasts, which are good against Thassa's Oracle. So Doomsday's not super great in this matchup, which Doomsday's the reason you want to have 3 blacks. So I'm pretty happy to just Echo and leave the red and the black floating. But I'll actually do this in a lot of matchups too, because when you Echo, you're typically looking to win immediately, which means you're going to be wanting casting a red spell like Burning Wish, or maybe making a mess of Goblin tokens. Basically, there are more business spells that you can draw that don't cast or don't cost black, black, black. So I like having both colors of mana available. So we'll Echo here, and I end up drawing not an immediate kill. So what I can do here is I will Manamorphose, I'll make black, black. And I used black, all 3 black, the 2 black floating, and the Lotus Petal to cast my Doomsday. There's a consideration there for. Oh no, never mind. Sorry, I was thinking maybe you could put the Thoughtseize yourself to put the Echo in the graveyard, but we don't have blue mana. Anyway, so the pile I'm going to make here, I actually don't like. I think this pile is a little suspect. Um, Basically, what's going to happen is I'll draw. The plan is that I draw the. I can't remember how I do this, but basically it's an echo pile. It's an echo pile. Um, Probably the best way to do it. It's an echo pile, but you have a lot of cards left over. You have more than 7 or 8 cards left over. So it's probably like a non-deterministic pile. And because I included 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds, like I didn't really give myself a good option to be able to cast the Thassa's Oracle. Like I wanted to make a pile that I would echo and then either be able to cast Thassa's Oracle or Burning Wish, but I didn't really set it up right to be able to reliably cast Thassa's Oracle. But I'm just going to hit play, and we'll see what happens because it turned out okay. So they play some artifact mana, they play out a Grindstone and a Welder, but they don't have mana to activate the Grindstone. I cast Rite of Flame, Manamorphose into an LED. I Thoughtseize them because I'm wary of a Red Blast on my Echo, and then Echo resolves, and I draw enough gas to be able to Burning Wish. I don't have to cast any more blue spells, so wheeling them into a Red Blast isn't a concern. And I just storm them out. And I did end up with enough mana to be able to cast my Thassa's Oracle as well, but I don't know. I think there maybe could have been a better pile there, but I think if you're trying to win this turn 2, you're kind of accepting some amount of non-deterministicness. Anyway, on to game 2. So I mull a little bit, but eventually I find Echo plus mana plus Spoils the Vault. So this is an Echo hand. I spoil for Lion's Eye Diamond. It's not too far down. I cast Echo. It resolves. They don't have red mana up, I should point out, because they don't have 3 artifacts from Mox Opal Metalcraft. This hand is the Echo hand that I drew is pretty awkward. It's lacking in the red mana to be able to like Burning Wish for Goblin tokens. So the best line here is to like Dark Ritual, Thoughtseize, Burning Wish for Doomsday. You do have the ability to win next turn with Doomsday, so it's not like horrible. But I did just wheel them into a new hand, and I'm passing the turn. I just don't love it. But I'm gonna make the most. Like I don't think it gets better by waiting a turn either. Like I want to be able to cast a Thoughtseize this turn, and I'm not gonna spend Lotus Petal just to cast Thoughtseize, which means I want to cast the Ritual. So we're kind of priced into this. Now their hand, it's so gross. I really hate it. They have Pyroblast, Damping Sphere, and the combo. Like, what can you do, really? Not a whole lot. So I make a hand. I take the Pyroblast because it's a hard stop on the Thassa's Oracle, which is what I'm going to be aiming to win the game with. And I didn't bring in. I don't have Cavern in this list. And because they have the combo, I don't have time to try to set up a hand that can win with a chant or something like that. So Burning Wish for Doomsday, blah blah blah. I basically my goal is to try to set up a hand that like I anticipate that they'll play the Damping Sphere, and then I'm gonna try to win and hope that they can't combo me out faster. So I need to win through the Damping Sphere and hope that they can't combo me out. Now, that was the plan, but looking back on it, I lose this game. Spoiler alert again. I lose this game. What I'm thinking is that I probably should have left the Pyroblast because it doesn't do anything before I try to cast Thassa's Oracle. Left the Pyroblast, taken the Grindstone because they had double Painter, right? So taking a Painter was pointless. Can I? Yeah. So this was a hand again. So if I taken the Grindstone, Oh, the Saga's gonna pop before I can combo out, before I can win. So I don't know. It's not a great setup. I'm just gonna hit play. So I make my pile. It's a spoils pile. Um, on their turn, they play out the Damping Sphere and the Grindstone. Um, I play a Thoughtseize, but there's nothing to take. So my second Thoughtseize was dead, and that's kind of why I thought maybe I should take the Grindstone, because they're going to get the Damping Sphere anyway, but I'll be able to Thoughtseize Pyroblast. Ends up not mattering. The Saga pops, they go get LED, and now they have Painter plus Grindstone. And honestly, at this point, just Grindstone is good enough. Um, so I'm dead. So basically, I wheeled my opponent into a better hand than I wheeled myself into. That's how that one went. So this hand I kept. I think this hand is a keep. I can see not being interested in it. You're casting Doomsday on turn 1, and then you have a protected Echo Pile for turn 2. If they have a turn 1 Damping Sphere, you're in a lot of trouble. Fortunately, I used the Manamorphose to make 2 black off the Rite of Flame, and I actually just wheel into Street Wraith, and so I can just kill them. So I can make cast Doomsday, Street Wraith up, the Lion's Eye Diamond, and wheel. And then, even better, I can actually still be able to cast the Orm's Chant, which, as it turns out, is critical because I drew them a Mindbreak Trap that obviously they didn't have in their first hand. So we win that game, that match, with a little bit of luck. I think this is probably my favorite match number 3 of the bunch. My favorite of the bunch. Sorry, looking at my other computer. Okay. Uh, so this hand is nutty. It's got an Echo and a Burning Wish, so it has the possibility to double spell against the blue deck. And I'm on the draw again. So they start off with a Misty Rainforest and pass, and I draw an Empty the Warrens, so that's even better as the second the second business spell against the blue deck. So what I decide I'm going to do is I just play out all of my mana, hoping that they don't counter like the Dark Ritual, but it's really not a big deal if they counter the Dark Ritual because I can just Echo. So they need double counterspell to be able to do anything here. Make the Empty the Warrens. It resolves, so I've got 10 goblins. That's pretty good on its own. Again, I think I wouldn't fault anyone for just passing the turn here and holding the Echo for a later day, but I am emboldened by the fact that they didn't do anything, and I just crack an Echo now, and that also resolves. I'm a little bit mana short on making another Empty the Warrens, so what I end up doing is just echoing another time. You could think about doing something like Burning Wish for Galvanic Relay here. I think that's defensible, especially because it's going to put an Echo into your graveyard. So that is arguably a better play than just echoing again. The advantage to echoing again is that there's a chance you win on the spot. But anyway, I play out my land for the turn. I cast the Manamorphose, and it doesn't draw me anything, so I pass the turn. We'll hit play again here. So I thought my opponent was probably on like Rug Delver or something, and I just got lucky that they didn't really have any gas, but turns out they're on a bug deck. They play Baleful Strix. Because I only have 10 goblins, Alright, pause for a sec. Because I only have 10 goblins, I'm thinking about the possibility of them putting a bunch of bodies on the board and maybe stalling long enough that they can get out ahead of these goblin tokens and I don't win the game. So it doesn't seem likely, probably the 10 goblins is enough to get there. But I attack, and then I'm going to play out a few spells and make another little Empty the Warrens, which should be enough that they can't possibly put enough bodies on the board to stall my goblin plan. I save one Dark Ritual because I don't need to spend all of my mana to make enough goblins to do the job here. And this way, if I draw like Burning Wish, I can potentially Burning Wish for Doomsday if they happen to like Plague Engineer me. But the goblins are good enough. For game 2, this hand is a little slow, but I think it's reasonable. It's just a little bit of mana away from being able to do something useful. Um, excuse me. And I drew some mana here. So I just play land and pass, and they hold up some mana and pass as well. And then I draw the Empty the Warrens, so of course I'm going to go for the goblins again. I make black and white, or I just black, sorry. I make just black here. I draw another empty, so now I can make my Empty the Warrens. I'll hit play again. So I make a few goblins, all good. There is a good chance that this amount of goblins is not going to be sufficient. It's only 10 goblins. They're already ahead on board. They have one creature out. There's enough creatures in their deck, and they have enough mana that they could probably put enough bodies on the board to make this a problem. And in fact, they have a Hull Breacher, so they were ready for an Echo if that's what it came to. And then they also have a Collector Roof, so this number of goblins is not going to be enough on its own. So I need to start thinking of a contingency plan. Because I have the Burning Wish and I have the Chant, I'm really just hoping to draw enough mana that I can get them into like mini Tendrils or mini Grape Shot range. But I need more colored mana sources to be able to do that. And they are having they got a lot of bodies that they can put on the board here. So I sneak through a little bit more damage, and now I need to start thinking a little more carefully about how I operate, because if I have to cast this Doomsday, I don't want to die on a crackback. And I'm not really going to be able to get any more damage through. So here's what happens here. I draw another Chrome Mox. Obviously, it's not going to do anything with the Collector Roof. So I'm not going to cast the Chrome Mox. What I am going to do is cast this Doomsday. They only have one card in hand, I should note. I'm a little bit wary of a hard cast Force Will because they have 5 mana up. But the Doomsday resolves. And I go about building a pile that can win with a small storm spell. And the idea is it's going to be a mini Grape Shot. I think those chants aren't actually going to do anything, though, is the problem. And I was thinking that the chants might be helpful. But like because the Chrome Mox doesn't make mana because of the Collector Roof, my Burning Wish is probably going to be unprotected. But anyway, I don't attack this turn. My opponent, because now I'm at 10 life, they decide that it's time. Oh, do they attack? No. Yeah, they do attack. So they send in a couple creatures here, and holding back 1. So I do some quick math. I make some blocks on the bigger ones. I let the Dryad Arbor go through. I draw for turn, or they play another land. So they still have that same 1 card in hand. I play a land, and I pass. So I think the right play here, or the right pile, I mean, here probably would have been to put another land at the bottom so that I could potentially like draw the next gemstone mine, pass another turn, kick a chant to prevent myself from getting attacked, and then basically like time walk them to have another mana source, so that I could potentially use the final or the next card in the pile, which would have been another chant to to actually protect my Burning Wish. But anyway, the pile was close to right, I think, like lands and protection. I think I just messed it up a little bit, probably because I was counting this as mana in my head when it's not really. So they attack again. This time I have enough mana, I have enough life that I get to let this go through. So I let that go through, and then on my turn, so that this way, even if they have a second creature that they can play, um, I'll still be able to get 1 damage through because I need them to be at 4 for this to work. So I draw my second gemstone mine. I go to combat. They block. I get my 1 damage through, and then now they're also tapped off of a main, like a hardcast force, which is interesting to note. Still could be force negation, but not force will. I play my land, and I hit the play button. I just Dark Ritual, cast the useless Chromox, and then I can Burning Wish into Grape Shot for exactly lethal. And it's good enough. So, neat little mini Grape Shot Doomsday pile. On to round 4. I lost the die roll again, but this hand is very strong. It can cast Burning, but like I'm not going to throw this back. It makes goblins on turn 1. There's no good reason to throw that back. Um, and then I even rip the Lion's Eye Diamond. So this hand, transcends good and becomes phenomenal because I don't actually even have to cast the Lion's Eye Diamond, or crack the Lion's Eye Diamond to be able to make empty the Warren's mana. So now they force Pitching Dress down, and I can still Echo, and I still have enough mana up for the for a potential like empty the Warrens or something. Didn't draw empty, but I did draw Thoughtseize plus Doomsday, so we Thoughtseize them, uh, and I took the Force of Will that was in their hand, and then I'm just hoping to fade them drawing another counterspell, um, and I make a Doomsday pile. Really, nothing too fancy going on here. One thing that's important to note when making the Doomsday pile is because they have the Prismatic Ending in hand, you should expect that they will Prismatic Ending either the LED or the Cabal, or the Chromox, and not rely on any of them. But we have enough mana to just do the Quad Morphos pile, so really no concerns there. They didn't draw a blue spell, and the Thassa's Oracle resolves, and we win the game. Easy peasy. So there we go. That is a good example of beating a Force of Will deck. Not that I hadn't beat one already this league, or I guess 2 already this league, but that game is kind of like textbook of how this deck beats the Force of Will decks by like you just have a lot of business spells and a couple main deck discard spells just overpower them. All right. So this hand is a keeper. This hand is also really fucking busted. Um, it can turn 1 Echo with mana floating, and you have 2 protection spells. Depending on what they do and what your draw looks like, you can consider either casting the Thoughtseize on turn 1, like I ended up doing, or chanting and trying to go off. I think in general I would lean towards Thoughtseize on turn 1, and then potentially you can have chant on turn 2, and you'll have like a land drop available for after you Echo. So I think in general that's the better line here. The where this fails, where Thoughtseize first fails, is if they counter your Thoughtseize and they have like an Ethersworn Canonist or something in hand, and you decide to wait and not just go for it, then you can get blown out like that. But I think most of the time, if the Thoughtseize first, with a protected Echo, the second turn is just going to be the much stronger, higher value play most of the time. So they brainstorm. Let's click through here a little bit. And they show me a hand that has 1 Force of Will. So because of the brainstorm, I was concerned that they had hidden something like an Ethersworn Canonist. Like, they brainstormed and then showed me the Force of Will, made me think that they were hiding something like an Ethersworn Canonist. So I decided that I was just going to go for it since I knew the Echo was going to resolve. So I Echo, I leave up all 3 red mana. There's no real good reason to leave blue mana up, because Hardcast Echo is pretty rare. But anyway, so I draw some good stuff. I have enough mana to be able to cast Empty the Warrens, but I do need this Manamorphose to resolve. Manamorphose and the Cabal Ritual. So I'm Morphose. I decided to make black and white here, because if I draw 1 more mana of any color, I'll have a protected, like I'll be able to chant and then win actually. Because if the chant resolves, then I can just wish for Tendrils. I did not draw the 1 more mana, so this time now I have to spend the Cabal Ritual, make 4 mana, and instead of casting the Burning Wish, like I'm at Storm 7, so Lions of Diamond is 8, Burning Wish is 9, Tendrils would be 10. Instead of doing that, because they could still potentially have Counterspell that they just decided not to use on any of my rituals, I elect to just play the LED and go for the Empty the Warrens. I think this is a much better play than going all in on the Burning Wish, for obvious reasons, but also next turn you can still wish for Echo, or if you draw another, like a Lotus Petal or something, you can chant and wish for the Echo. So like, I don't know, it's just a lot better to go for the empty here instead of going all in like an asshole. And the empty is just good enough. They draw for turn, and I think they just concede. Yep, draw for turn, concede. So, easy win. If they had counter magic, they definitely should have countered some of those rituals. But it's not uncommon for people to just not do that. All right, final round. This time I win the roll. I keep this hand. I have to mull pretty low down to 4. I keep this hand that casts Doomsday on turn 1 and then wins on turn 2 with the Quadmorphose pile. Not particularly thrilling, but it's the best I was going to get there. So super straightforward. Doomsday pile here. Excuse me. And then I get absolutely ranched. My opponent's on Reanimator. They dump a Grizzlebrand into the yard, bring it back, draw a fuck ton of cards, do some discarding, blah blah blah, shit, fuck. There we go. There goes my booty hole. Obviously I can't be Chancellor. I don't have the mana. If it's interesting to note that if they had just been the Archon and brought that back, I wouldn't have also lost. But it doesn't matter. I lost. I lost very hard. So at this point, I was kind of disappointed. I thought the 5-0 was gone because Reanimator is like about as coin flippy as a matchup of a matchup as you can get. If you win the roll, you're very likely to win. You kill them on turn 1, they kill you on turn 1, then you kill them on turn 1, and you win the match. So I had to win 2 coin flips in a row basically, and they're worse than coin flips now because I'll probably win this hand, win this game, and then probably lose the next one. Like basically, I need them to give me a turn. I need them to mull to oblivion in the last game, which doesn't happen a lot. So again, I keep a very similar hand here. The reason this one is better than the last one, like it's another play Doomsday pass turn. The reason this one is better than the last one is because I don't actually have to rely on cards in hand. So if they have Archon or whatever, I can still win the game. Um, if they don't discard me at all, I can actually even beat a Chancellor here. So we'll see what I do. I go Gemstone Mine, play out both of my rituals, make the Doomsday pile, which is going to be an LED, and then Street Wraith, and LED Street Wraith spoils Morpho's Oracle. I think it ends up going, yeah. So now, oh sorry, the Street Wraith it was LED spoils Street Wraith Morpho's Oracle. I misspoke. So now I can use my one floating black mana to play spoils, naming Lion's Eye Diamond, and play out the LED. So now I'm not relying on any cards in my hand. And even if they get a turn 1 Chancellor out, as long as they don't make me discard the City of Brass, I can play the City, I'll draw the spoils, so I can spoils through the Chancellor, and then I'll still be able to Oracle through the Chancellor. So I think that this hand beats a lot of what they can do, aside from, like, sometimes you see Black-Red Reanimator playing Tendrils Tendrils in their deck. So they just start with Faithless Looting, and then they have a Grief. Obviously, Iona. They have this Iona. Iona is a big problem. But they don't get to reanimate anything on turn 1. And so I win this game. I was a little concerned about Pyroblast as well, but I don't think... a lot of Black-Red Reanimator decks aren't even playing it, I think, and I also don't think they would necessarily even bring it in against me. So finally, on to game 3 for the 5-0. On the draw, slim chances. Can he do it? So this hand is about as good as you can ask for in this kind of situation. I think the only probably better option would be if these two spoils were actually just Lion's Eye Diamonds, so that we don't have to risk any of our life total. But the reason this hand is good is because it is resilient to discard. So if you get a turn, you're probably going to get hit with discard. So this can beat potentially multiple pieces of discard. So like obviously can beat one. They should take the spoils, but you'll have another spoils to go get Lion's Eye Diamond. If they have two pieces of discard, they can take both spoils, but you still have the Thoughtseize to be able to dump the Echo into your graveyard and potentially Echo on your next turn. Obviously, you need to get a next turn, but it's not impossible. They start with 7 cards in hand, which is worrisome, but then they lead off on Faithless Looting, and they don't put anything into the graveyard. They unmask pitching Thoughtseize, unmask me, and they take my Thoughtseize. So, excuse me. So from this, I gather that I probably have some time. I think their hand likely was heavy on discard. They, as we saw, they had to unmask, and then they also exiled their own Thoughtseize. They probably only have one reanimation spell, which is why they took my Thoughtseize. And obviously they don't have any creatures in their hand to be able to put into the graveyard. Like an absolute champion, I rip a Thoughtseize, although I don't think it is necessary here. But now I can imprint the spoils, Thoughtseize them, and I see that my assessment was not exactly correct because they don't actually have a reanimation spell at all. But they only have one, useful card here in this Faithless Looting. They don't even have another mana to be able to ritual out, like ritual a flashback looting next turn. So I can kind of understand them taking my Thoughtseize, but their hand was extremely heavy on discard. 2 unmasks, which inexplicably they didn't use the second unmask, presumably because they wanted to hold on to the Dark Ritual. So not really inexplicable, but I think it probably would have been better for them to unmask me taking spoils and then unmask me taking spoils again. But anyway, here we are. So I Thoughtseize. I believe I take the looting. And then I'm going to spoils for Lion's Eye Diamond and not Echo. I just play out the LED and pass because it's exceedingly unlikely that they win from here. Um, for them to win on their turn, they have to draw another mana source, then they ritual flashback Faithless Looting, leaving them with one black floating, and they have to draw creature plus reanimate to be able to win. Um, and so they'll be able to dump the creature and then use the floating black mana to reanimate it. So it's extremely unlikely that they'll be able to win on their turn. My hand is insulated against discard. Um, if they are playing Pyroblast or whatever, they could potentially draw that, and I would be up a shit creek. But still, slim chances that any of that happens. So now I get to have another turn and absolute king shit. I rip another Lion's Eye Diamond. So I get to play out my land, play out the Lion's Eye Diamond. I can echo, and I'm actually going to be able to leave one Lion's Eye Diamond uncracked here because I have plenty of mana. And this way, if I draw another echo, I'll be able to crack that LED and get it into the yard. So I cast Echo, but this is just a kill. We have enough mana here I can play Chrome Mox, imprint Thoughtseize, then I'll have 3 black to be able to cast Doomsday, and 1 red available where I can Rite of Flame into Manamorphose to draw into the Doomsday pile. So that's just the game. And because I have plenty of mana here, I actually can just make a Burning Wish. Like, I can make a Storm pile, so I don't have to expose myself to the potential of a Red Elemental Blast. And this pile actually is, I can Burning Wish here, and then the last card is like Morphose into Thassa's Oracle. So I could win next turn too if they had a surprise Mindbreak Trap or something heinous like that. But anyway, got a little lucky in this last matchup for sure, and able to get the 5-0. So that's it. That's the deck. I think this deck is really good. Like, it's kind of heinous. It's to look at. It looks ugly as fuck. Um, on paper, it just looks like a complete mess. But I've been doing very well with it. Um, it's hard to get people to take it seriously sometimes because of this little card, Spoils the Vault. But I think it's better than like a Belcher type of deck. Obviously, Belcher's not in a good spot right now, but it's very fast. Um, it's got a lot of different possible lines. It's got main deck protection. It doesn't completely fold to Graveyard Hate. Doesn't completely fold to like Chalice on any particular number, except I guess 2. Well, no, it even doesn't fold to Chalice on 2 because you can empty the warrens pretty easily through Chalice on 2. So like it doesn't fold very easily to lots of different types of permanent-based hate. Doomsday can help play through that. I don't know. It's pretty good. I really think if you're watching this video that you're clearly mad enough to try it. So you really should. I really desperately want somebody besides me to 5-0 with this. Monkeys Can't Cry did it like 2 years ago, but no one has done it recently. And I think if someone else got a result with it, it would help lend some credibility to the deck and not just be, this fucking maniac, me, playing it over and over. But yeah, like and subscribe or whatever. Love you.